Hi, good evening, everyone. I will call the December 9th, 2024 meeting of the Newtown Township Board of Supervisors to order. I will note that the board did meet in executive session where we discussed the following matters. With regards to litigation matters, conditional use application status for two cases. We discussed one zoning hearing board case at 301 First Avenue where the applicant is seeking variance relief. And then we also discussed personnel matters with relations to a police-defined compensation request. With that being said, Mr. Nease, can you please call the roll? Here.
Mr. Altieri.
Here.
Mr. Albert Lightcap is not here yet. Mr. Russo. Here. Ms. Chanlis.
Here.
Mr. San Francesco. Here. Your solicitor, engineer, and manager are here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nease. We will now move down to silence and pledge of allegiance. And we will stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll move down to section 5, agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the following amendment? Under bills 11.1, that number shall change to $570,051.74. And then item 14.5 should read the following. Consider approving Delmont Utilities Incorporated to remove the silt deposits at the end of the culvert on Paper Mill Road at a base cost of $11,305 with a total cost not to exceed $18,031. The public works staff will be used to supplement work upon execution of the adjacent property owner of permission in a form acceptable to the township manager and solicitor. With that being said, I will make the motion to approve the agenda as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion was made by the chair, second by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We will now move down to public comment. I do want to make just a few notes. Obviously, I am aware that there is a desire for a large group of people or individuals to make public comment for an item that is not on the agenda, specifically related to the applicant of Aronwick Golf Course. Normally, public comment is only reserved for two parts of this agenda. First, which is this section, section 6, for agenda items only. And then there's an agenda item at the end of the meeting for any sort of public comment that anyone wishes to make. For tonight, understanding that there's a large contingent of individuals, we are going to do all the public comment at the beginning of the meeting. We also normally only allow for public comment to be for residents and taxpayers. Understanding that there's also a large contingent of individuals who came out tonight on a cold, rainy, and damp Monday, we will allow anyone to speak related to this application that, again, is not on the agenda. However, we will prioritize Newtown Township residents and taxpayers first. The Newtown Township residents and taxpayers will speak first. If you are not a resident and a taxpayer and you still feel the need to say something that has not yet been said already, we will ask you and entertain you to come up and provide your public comment. So with that being said, if there is anyone who wishes to provide any public comment, Newtown Township residents first, residents and taxpayers, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Mr. Chair, can we just do agenda items first and then do that other one so we have that separated? So anybody has comments on agenda, let's do that first.
That's fine. All right, so we'll do the agenda items first, and then after anyone who wants to speak about agenda items, we'll do non-agenda items after that. So if you can, sir, just please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Michael DeMeo. I live at 95 Roberts Road in Newtown Square. I'm speaking in regards to agenda item 14.9, replacement of the field at the turf at Gable Field. So first, I'm really happy to see the initiative that's being taken to replace the turf. It's much needed for our community. I spent a lot of time at Gable as a father of 3 kids and a coach, or previously coach at Marple Newtown Soccer Association. My main concern is just the layout of the field lines for soccer. They don't conform to any regulation standard for 7v7 or 9v9 games, which would make it unusable for official game play. This might seem trivial, but this has a lot of impact on our community. Our township is growing through development, but the space that we have for recreation is not. MNSA had record enrollment last year, so a lot of kids playing, putting a lot of stress on the current fields that we have, which are all grass currently. They're currently being overused and in all honesty, they're probably subpar compared to some of our neighboring townships. At the end, this will increase fees for youth activities. Kids are gonna have to go elsewhere, pay for private fields to play on. Before we invest $655,000 and commit 10 to 15 years, I just would ask the township to consider alternative layouts on the field design before fully moving forward with that, so that we could make sure that we optimize the use for future activities. And also encourage the township to work with Newtown Soccer Association to get their feedback prior to finalizing those plans.
Thank you very much. Mr. DeMayo, can you just do me a favor? What was your address?
95 Roberts Road.
Thank you very much. Any other resident with regards to public comment on agenda items? Mr. Butler.
John Butler, 102 Hunters Run. I'd like to talk about the budget. The budget appears to be taking like 800,000 from a one-time source of federal money to balance it. Plus, I see a note there that 500,000 has been cut out. And my concern is, what are we going to do next year for the following year? And it appears to me like there's a 5% tax increase already in the current budget. And that's not really outlined like that. That's a real problem. I do have a question about the sewage.
So Mr. Butler, just so you know, this is public comment, not public question and answer. If you have a
Okay.
specific question that you want the township administration to address, I would advise you to send an email to them. But you can provide your public comment and then we'll.
My concern is you're using one-time funding that ends, it has to be committed by December, and it's not available for next year. And it looks like there's 500,000 that apparently was pulled out of the budget to keep the tax increase down to 5%. The hydrant fee, I am confused because it's clearly stated on the street light, it's by area. Hunters Run does not have any hydrants on a hydrant rate. Are we paying that in our millage for the whole town? That's
Any
my-
additional public comment?
And, okay, the other HOAs, are they, my concern is, are they paying directly for their hydrants or is it through the fund? And, okay, I have other comments on later on.
Thank you very much. Any other residents who have any public comment on agenda items only? Okay, let the record reflect that there is none for agenda items. We will now move it to public comment for any sort of public comment. Again, and as was just highlighted with Mr. Butler, this is public comment, not public question and answer. We will not engage in a dialogue as has been customary here in Newtown Township. I also do want to note too, that if you are speaking or after someone speaks, if you are in favor of what they say, or if you disagree with what they say, please keep your cheers and jeers to a minimum. This is a professional meeting. I don't want to have any sort of mob mentality or any mob rule based off of anyone's comments for or against anything that might be said. So with that being said, any residents first with any public comment, feel free to come up to the podium. I'll make another comment. Okay, there you go. Ms. Cravanis.
Yes, good evening. My name is Janet Carvanas. I have lived for 41 years on Paper Mill Road, 23 Paper Mill Road. My backyard is contiguous with Aronimink Golf Course. Over those years, I've watched deer and fox and raccoons and occasionally a skunk come out of the forest and visit my bird feeder and graze in my backyard. I'm in love with these trees that are on Aronimik's golf course. And it's trees that have, and birds that have propelled me to volunteer my time with the township. A Google search shows that Aronimix Forest is one of the biggest in our surrounding area, and it is an old growth forest. Those trees are from 100 to 300 years old. There's a lot of dead trees there that have suffered because of the emerald ash borer and other diseases. But old trees that die have an important part to play in our environment. I have had a tree on my property that I know was part of that forest. It had to come down after it had been there for 200 years. I counted the rings. Old growth forests are important for many of our bird species and for pollinators. And one of the birds that is one of my favorites is the wood thrush, and I hear it in the summer, the wood thrush. They only grow or nest in old growth forests. So for this removal of these trees on 10 acres for 3 days of a GPA tournament just hurts my soul that these should come down. And can't we please find another location and save our old growth forest? 60% of the wood thrush have died over the last 50 years. And we've lost over 140 million birds in the eastern forest. So my goal tonight was to speak for those forests, to speak for the pollinators that live in the forest, and for the birds that need the pollinators to stay alive. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other Newtown residents? Mr. Seligson.
Paul Seligson, good evening, 4727 Mill Hollow Lane. About 2005, I was the chairman then of EAC, and that's when I got the first Tree City USA designation for Newtown Township. And ever since, we've always had a Tree City designation, and I value it. And I think for those that drive in and out of the township, they see the signs, they understand our neighboring municipalities are also members. And I just wonder if there can't be perhaps a smaller footprint than 10 acres. Where did the 10 acres come from? That's what I wonder. And if there could be an alternative space. It could be that there's no alternative space, but maybe 10 acres, which is a vast amount of land. Maybe it could be 7.5 acres. Maybe it could be 5 acres. I do share Janet's concern felling that many trees for 4-day event.
Any other Newtown Township resident? Mr. Butler.
I know that you changed the recycling contractor, but it doesn't say what MRF it's going to, and I'm not allowed to ask that question. But this is something that I picked up. Republic appears to be willing, they're looking at making this kind of a label, and it could be placed on the recycling bins that we own. And if they don't pay the cost, I think it could be funded under 902. Clearly tells the residents what can be recycled, and it would increase our recycling and the quality of our recycling. And you know, when I find out who the MRF is, you know, I know Republic appears to be willing to do that. Also, I did suggest that we have an amusement tax in this community, and there's been some going back and forth with the way I read Act 511. Second-class township is allowed to do it, allowed up to 10%. And I see a shortfall of income coming in next year, and it would be a way to pick up some money, especially if we have a big tournament. 5 or 7%, 10% on the ticket price would generate a lot of money. That's the one thing. And I am very confused. I think everybody's confused on replacement trees. In Marple Township, we have a clearly cut rate, and it funds a lot of replacement trees in our community. We also have, when we have a development, we also have a recreational impact fee. And it's like, if the developer can't supply open space that's usable to the community, because more residents come in here, there is more need for recreational facilities. They have to put money in a fund. And that's fund a lot of park improvements in our community, in Marple community down there, and not hitting the taxpayers. And, tonight they're approving something, they're building a mausoleum in Peter and Paul, and apparently there's not enough open space for the ghosts. So they're having to kick in money to fund some open space somewhere in our community. But we have to have other ways to fund things in this community. A lot of residents are talking with all this construction going on, and the taxes keep going up. And there are other sources. I would hope that we would look at them.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Any other Newtown Township residents?
Hi, my name is Debbie Warden, and I live at 4723 Mill Hollow Lane. I'm Paul's neighbor. I've been here for 25 years or so. Yes, stormwater is one thing I want to chat about. I also want to chat about the trees that are being forecast to come down, the 10 acres of trees, I think. In regards to what we just talked about, the future costs, like I look at the items that are on the agenda today, and one of them is the silt on Paper Mill Road and the, in the cul-de-sacs, whatever that culverts. The things that happen now affect later times, and there's money involved, and by the time that those effects happen, the people who have caused them are gone, or they don't have a reason to pay in or any of that. So I'd love to be able to have a better sense or conversation around future costs of what might happen with all this potential runoff that would happen if you take down 10 acres of trees. Honestly, I think Darby Creek might be inundated with flow. And I know people say that the science is that, man-made basins are better than God's plan, but my intuition tells me that that isn't true. But we're gonna find out because it's happening all over the place. So we will be able to figure it out one way or the other. I also want to say that I live on Mill Hollow Lane, which actually Reese's Run intersects Mill Hollow Lane. And so we're about to venture into all the development at Dubuton's property there. So I just want to say that hopefully we can put a lot of effort into figuring out how to handle the culvert there, because that could be a problem for our township people that live on that lane, and stormwater management in general. And that section could be tricky. So I wanted to see, how do you get focus on, well, I guess I can ask that question to somebody else, but I want to know how we can make sure that that section is managed down the road when we talk about watershed issues, because I don't know whether that map is already planned or whether there is future conversation. So I don't know who to talk to about that, but one of my concerns.
Debbie, real quick. So when you say what just so I can understand your question, you're talking about when you say that area, you're talking about the Debuton area for.
Well, yeah,
Boron and
where
everything?
Boron's building and whatever else comes in there, and the watershed in there that comes right down Reese's Run and then hits into Crum Creek.
Yep.
It goes underneath our driveway.
Mhm.
And like water has a real good ability to wash away culverts that aren't properly sized. And I drove down Paper Mill and I saw what they did there. They put a $5 million bridge work in that section. So water does big damage and it costs a lot of money. And who's going to do that? If our driveway gets wiped away, 5 years down the road, and we haven't really planned for a 100-year storm. We planned for a however many year storm. Where do we go for that?
Yeah.
Is my question.
So what I would tell you to do is send an email to Steve. When the land development projects come through, they are required by law to maintain all their stormwater. I know it's kind of contrary to the point that you were making about God's plan and man-made action, but there's some information that I think might be beneficial that was fleshed out during the Boron hearings with regards to the land development plans that I think is just good for you to know. You might not be satisfied with it, but there are answers to those questions.
Okay. I also want to say thank you for the work you do twice a month and all the time you put in. Other than that, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other Newtown Township residents with public comment?
My name is Bill Barry. I currently reside on Carriage Lane in Newtown Square. Previously happened to reside on on 32 Paper Mill for 15 years. I'm also a member of Aronimink Golf Club, and we are proud of our club. We consider ourselves excellent stewards, excellent neighbors, and we are very good people. We were founded in 1896, and in the late 1890s, our first board consisted of more women than men. We are acknowledged as one of the finest private family golf clubs in the country. We are certified Audubon Cooperative Sanctuary. We are a member of the Newtown Township Green Business Coalition. We make an ongoing investment in our tree population. We have 300 acres of open space. The 10 acres that we're talking about is about 3% of our campus. We have a bird cavity nester program, and we've had that since 1995. Regarding this specific application that we're going to present to the supervisors at the January meeting, this broadcast compound is needed because we are going to be streaming out to 180 countries, 500 million households. It is truly a global event, and it's a big deal. We'll have 200,000 people coming through Newtown Township that week. And by the way, it's May 11th to May 17th in 2026. We signed the contract with the PGA of America in 2017. We've been working for several years now to get ready to host the event. We have been working with the township on this event, and in addition to the $35 million investment we were making in the club, and we've been working with the township for the last 4 years, going through planning and the supervisors to make sure that we do everything correctly. We receive no special favors from the township. We are proud that we follow the same rules and regulations that everyone else who lives in the township does. In closing, as far as the community is concerned, we welcome our neighbors on the 4th of July for our fireworks. We host a drive, chip, and putt for junior golfers from the area and the region. We host fundraisers for the Platt Evans scholarships, where our members donate about $150,000 a year to local caddies for pursuing their college educations. And we also, at the club, host community business fundraiser meetings along with weddings and funerals. Thank you, and we plan to continue to be good stewards in the community.
Hi there, it's Bob Bowman. I'm at 102 Millview Lane, and I'm also a member of Aronimink, but more importantly, I live right across the street from where all of this 10 acres that we're talking about will take place. And I would tell you personally, I had a concern about stormwater runoff and about trees and replacement. So I've been very, very attuned to what's going on here because we're right across the street. I feel very comfortable with what's happening from a personal standpoint, again, that the township and the engineers have gotten it all right, that the stormwater will be taken care of the right way, or if it's not, it's coming right over my property. And an important fact is those stormwater things will stay after that, which will help with the long-term stormwater situation in that area. Second thing is the trees. I've been back in that area quite a bit, and being across the street, especially during COVID, I would walk through there just for exercise. And there's a lot of dead trees back there, awful lot of dead trees down there, and a lot of trees on their sides down there. What I'm most concerned about and happy that Aronimink is doing this is after this is finished, at least one of those acres will be completely reforested, and there will be a commitment to plant, I believe, 800 more trees. And that's part of just the commitment. That's what the township asked for. So stormwater and tree replacement, by the way, every year, I believe we put 30 to 50 more trees in. and we're great stewards to the area. It's 300 some acres of open ground. And, you know, it is lovely to drive down St. David's Road and see both the golf course and what would perhaps be there if it weren't a golf course, right? So it's gorgeous to see that. And as Bill said just a few minutes ago, this PJ event is a huge international event, and the amount of money that's going to flow through this area because of that will be extraordinary. And once it's done, I believe that we'll all be proud of what Aronimink will do to replace things and make things just as good, if not better, than where they are today. So thank you for your time. And anybody else wants to come on?
Any other Newtown Township residents who wish to provide any public comment?
Good evening. My name's Dave McManus. I live at 507 Biddle Lane in Newtown Square.
I'm sorry, can you repeat what the address again? I'm sorry, Mr.
507 Biddle Lane.
Biddle, got it.
And I originally moved to Newtown Square back in 1971. I graduated from Marple Newtown.
I knew I liked you. We were in the same class, weren't we?
Recently moved back, you know, to hopefully live out my retirement here. I've maintained my membership at Aronimink the whole time. And I can tell you as a neighbor and a member that Aronimink has been a great steward of the environment. They've been a great neighbor. And with this event coming up and the scope of the event, I can promise from my history there that what will be left behind will be better than it is today. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other Newtown Township residents for?
Suzanne McCutcheon, 149 Ashley Road.
149?
149, yeah. I was able to take part of the township's ability of getting new trees, and I actually got 2 new trees put in our front of our yard where there has never been any before, to help with the stormwater just in general with the township. I don't have as much information on this issue at this time, but I would like to request that they go through the full land development process to especially if they've been working on this since 2017 about these trees. I would like to know, which I am not an expert, is how much the old growth trees actually absorb more than the new trees. Something that's interesting that we have 32 townships downstream from us. So any changes we make up here is going to affect other people as well. It's not just us. It's not just our township. And if they come up with stormwater thing, it should be based on at least 100-year flood situation. My sister-in-law is down in Asheville, and that was supposed to be an area that was not supposed to get any rain. It was supposed to be a climate haven. And a lot of the places that she looked to buy are no longer there. So it's a serious thing, the stormwater. And then I hope we can come up with some kind of a compromise and go through full land development for this situation. Thank you very much.
Excuse me.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jim Hagney. I'm a resident at 6 Boulder Creek Lane, having moved in around 6 months ago.
Yeah, real quick. Can you spell your last name for me?
Hagney, Hageney.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. It's great to hear everyone's comments. I appreciate the comments regarding the birds, because I live right on the course. I've been the benefactor of seeing all of the birds fly around. There's a great calendar of all the unique birds that use Aronimink as a sanctuary. I know that as a fellow member that the golf the club is committed to replacement and restoration for that 10 acres. So I know they do a great job, and I share concerns. But I know we're in a good place. Thank you.
Joe Rose, 4 Boulder Creek Lane.
And just ROSA Rose?
Yeah, like the flower.
Yep.
Yep, I live on the course, so I'm just amazed at how well they take care of everything. I'm here to just show my unwavering support for the project with the PGA. I think Audubon accolades, are key. Just a great example of, what we're doing for the environment. Every Monday when the course is closed, I take the kids down to the ponds and we skip stones and things like that. It's just a beautiful sanctuary. So just wanted to show my support.
Thank you. Any other residents from Newtown Township?
Hello, I'm Erin Cook. Good to see everyone tonight. I reside at 348 Echo Valley Lane and have lived there for 20 years. Proud resident of Newtown Township. I'm also a member at Aronimink. And I just wanted to say tonight that everyone at Aronimink takes these decisions and the steps towards building this event very seriously. And we've worked hand in hand with the township, and we're very serious about making sure that we're following the right standards and provisions that the township is giving us for both the stormwater and the reforestation of the trees. I just think it's important to make public comment that none of these decisions are taken lightly, that we have a whole team of people that are making sure that we maintain our great relationship with the township, but also that we're doing the right thing with the area. And we're very proud to be a neighbor here. So thank you very much.
Any other Newtown Township residents for public comment?
My name's Edward Devine. I'm at 3210 St. David's Road. I've been there for 27 years. I've seen quite a lot of development in the district, and I've been part of Aronimink's board and also their Greens chair for a period of time. We took a lot of efforts when we were renovating the course to become a good neighbor. The superintendent is here tonight. I had the benefit of working side by side with him for years. And I will tell you, we took the bird population serious. We had the benefit of one of our members, Keel Jones, who was smart enough to put bird boxes throughout the whole course. And I'm here to say that we were able to bring back good part of the bluebird population that had left this state, Pennsylvania bluebird. I'm sure as bird lovers, you're familiar with that. It's a beautiful bird. I do share concerns about who will be displaced, but I know that we're going to have a plan to replace trees, and we're going to do it tastefully. We've been a very good neighbor over the years, and I'm just here to support the club and all the people that put the time and effort into the projects.
Thank you. Any other Newtown Township resident? Do one last call for any other Newtown Township resident. Mr. Glazer.
It's bad when you're known before you even give your name.
3511 Cayley Road.
3538. The seat of the resistance.
All right.
I really had a minimal understanding of this coming into the meeting, but I share some basic thoughts. One is the land development process should be followed in full. The fact that it's Aronimink should not really change anything. I'm thought of a witticism that was issued by George Carlin, one of America's great humorists, over 40 years ago. Speaking of golf, he said it's a sport played by old men wearing ugly pants. I don't think the fact that there is a tournament with the PGA and it's going around the world really has any significant meaning to me as a resident. I am really concerned with the here and now, the local. And I think the residents who are talking about preservation of forestry, old, new, dead, living, really are carrying the important point. I think, again, it should go through the full land development process. It should be scrutinized. And really with the understanding that if a private property owner, private homeowner who had a similar situation were going to make the same request, would it be treated on an expedited basis? I don't think it really would. So I simply ask that the residents requesting the full process go ahead. And if it makes it through, it makes it through. If it doesn't, then it does not.
Thank you very much, Mr. Glazer. Any other Newtown Township resident? All right, we'll now move it to anyone who does not live in the township that wishes to provide any public comment for or against on the application, which is not on the agenda this evening, but which is the subject of topic tonight. I do just want to make one point of clarification that though it is labeled as a waiver of land development, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page with this. We have requested that Aronimink go through essentially that land development process, even though they're not obligated to do so. By doing that, they are availing themselves still to the township boards and commissions. It is still they are availing themselves to our township's professional staff, that being the arborist and the township engineer. They are providing their expertise and their review letters as these plans move forward. The plans have also been subjected to the Shade Tree Commission, the Environmental Advisory Council, as well as the Planning Commission. So it is quote unquote a waiver of land development, but they are still going through that land development process and still having our township staff and professionals review everything. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. It would be no different, to Mr. Glazer's point, if I was putting an addition on the back of my house and let's say it didn't necessarily, it's similar to that same process. So township staff and professionals are reviewing it. Anyone who does not live in the township that feels as if something has not been said already that they wish to supplement, feel free to come up.
Hello, my name is Greg Ercolani. I live at 2515 Highland Avenue in Broomall. And I want to thank you for moving up the public comments so we don't have to sit through all boring details of the rest of the meeting.
Just remember that when you're in Marple.
Yeah.
Marple does that to you.
But I'm here to oppose the development by Aronimink Country Club. But I would like to see at the time of application, funds be escrowed for an independent environmental impact study so that the neighboring residents and the residents of Newtown Township are aware of the impact of what's going to happen at Aronimink. Dead trees, heard someone mention if they're not endangered to anyone, it's a habitat for wildlife, very important habitat for wildlife. And so that is my comment. I live on Highland Avenue by Trout Run runs behind my house, and it's right there by Kent Park at the end of Highland Avenue. And that's part of the Darby Creek watershed. So I'm very sensitive to the impact it might have on the watershed. I don't have a big parcel, and there's a deed restricted parcel behind me, and it's just absolutely beautiful. I mean, the wildlife is incredible. I don't live on the golf course, but what I have is better than living on the golf course. But I do thank Aronimink for being a good neighbor to Newtown Township. And I know they'll do the proper due diligence before they begin any construction on this project. But I believe that they'll do a good job when they do it. So that's my comment. I'd like to see an independent environmental impact study conducted so that we have the proper information before us and know what's going to happen.
Can you just do me a favor? Can you just spell your last name for me?
Yes, ERCOLANI. All
right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other non-residents who feel as if something has not been said already that they wish to also add with regards to this? You're a resident, so come on up, Mr. Skoukis. I'll let you jump the line.
Alex Skoukis, 33 Dunmanning Road, Newtown Square. The back of my property is on Paper Mill Road and is served, there's a culvert that comes underneath that road water washes down from Aronimink and goes through the culvert into my ponds. I have expressed concern to Aronimink in the past about the amount of erosion coming down from their property as a result of all the construction. And I spoke to somebody over there who's in charge of the grounds, and they said they would get back to me, and they never did. I called them again, and they said they'd get back to me, and they never did. So when you're driving down St. David's, and I encourage everyone to do it, as you come up to Paper Mill, before you go over that hill, look to your right, and you'll see all the trees there. All that's going to be gone. What's the view going to be? And the erosion problem over there is bad enough. But what is it going to be when they get rid of all of this stuff? I've walked that up there with Mr. Johnson, and he knows what the situation is from the erosion, just from natural erosion. Imagine taking out 10 acres of roots. Imagine what that's going to look like when all the broadcast people are gone and all the golfers are gone and it's just us residents left. We're going to have to drive by that every day and look at whatever's been cleared out. And the reason I'm out of breath is because I jumped in my car, I was listening in my office at home. I heard a gentleman say, well, we're only taking out 10 acres out of 300. I had the plans up in front of me. I encourage you, look at how many acres are trees. Yeah, there might be 300 acres. Most of that is cleared out already. Look at what percentage that 10 acres of trees is. And it's probably more like 25%, 20 to 25% of all the trees on the property there. So I just would encourage the board to, when you're making a decision, I know you're not making one tonight, but think about what happens once the event is finished. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Skoukis. Ms. Feeney. Oh, sorry. Any other non-Newtown resident or taxpayer who feels as if they need to add something that has not been said already? One last call. All right, so we'll close public comment and we'll take a 5-minute break to let everyone disperse if they choose not to be here.
Right. We'll be back at the end of the month.
All right. I'm gonna call this meeting back to order. It is 7:56. Let's just do the minutes real quick. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the November 25th, 2024 meeting?
So move. Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Before we get into reports, there's just a few more things I want to address real quick. I wanted to do this at the beginning of public comment, but the Newtown Township Board of Supervisors is happy to report that on November 20th, the township and the police union have reached a tentative deal on the new labor contract, which is mutually beneficial for all parties and for the citizens of Newtown Township. The parties are working out final contract language, and we hope to have that language finalized shortly and the tentative agreement ratified. This board will report back as soon as those steps are completed with a detailed summary of the terms of the new contract. On behalf of the Newtown Township Bargaining Group, Supervisor Chanlis, Township Manager Nease, we want to thank the FOP for working with us over the last couple of months. It is, as we said, a mutually beneficial contract and one that we are excited to move forward towards. We're going to go a little bit out of order real quick. Tom, tell me when you're ready.
Right.
We're going to go down to section 15, public hearing. I will note that it is 7:58 on Monday, December 9th. I'm going to open up the conditional use hearing for 14 Phillips Lane, and I will state on the record that this is going to be continued to January 27th, 2025. I will now close the record, and I thank you, Tom, for your time. Problem. Okay. Reports 8.1, report from the fire department, Chief Young.
He's unable to be here. I do believe the report was attached. If you had any questions, please feel free. He gave me some information if you had questions.
Okay. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move down to 8.2, report from the township engineer, Mr. Johnson.
Good evening. Of course, I'd welcome any questions, but just as we're coming up to the end of the year, it's been a very busy year for various capital projects. So we've been wrapping up Ellis Avenue sidewalks, St. Albans Circle, the Hilltop pedestrian crossings, and then various stormwater projects. We have ongoing the various roof replacement projects. And as we're looking forward towards next year, later in the agenda will be the two Upper St. Albans neighborhood and the Water's Edge community stormwater improvements. And then also we'll be looking forward towards the Bishop Hollow sidewalk project, rear park improvements, and invert program coming up next year, amongst other things, I'm sure.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the township engineer? Seeing none, we'll move down to the report from the township manager, Mr. Neese.
I'm going to defer all my comments to later in the meeting, mostly around the budget.
Thank you very much, Mr. Neese. We are going to jump out of order again. We're going to move down to section 16, land development approval, 16.1. So 16.1, information and discussion of the waiver of land development process for Polig Homes LLC for minor amendment to approved land development plans for Stony Knoll. Mr. Neese, Mr. Sikora, Mr. Johnson, whoever wants to take it, feel free.
So this is the Stony Knoll development. I think it was 17 lot subdivision up off of Wayland Road. And as the project has progressed, there's some individual property purchasers that want houses that are slightly larger or a lot larger in some cases. And but the layout of the development is the same. And then they also, so they came in for board consideration of that. And they also wanted to change the temporary swale that goes around the outside of the property. And so our engineers looked at all the stormwater implications of that. They've offered to finish the walking path that goes from the drive up towards 252 to the end of the property. And there's a approval resolution for them to be able to make those revisions to their approved plans without having to come back and go through the whole land development process again, because it's under the watch of our township engineer.
Mr. Johnson, you have anything you want to add?
No.
Okay. We have representatives from Polig. Do you guys have anything you want to add? Sorry, Wayne.
No, we just appreciate township staff's time and willingness to meet with us and work through the process.
Perfect. Thank you, Wayne. Now we'll move down to 17.1. Consider approving resolution 2024-27, a waiver of land development for a minor amendment to approve land development plans for Stony Knoll development. The resolution 2024-27, waiver of land development approval requirements for the minor amendment of the approved land development plans for Stony Knoll Wayland Road. Whereas developer is seeking a waiver of any formal land development approval process related to one, relocation of the temporary swales on the north and south side of the development, as will be depicted on the revised stormwater management plan and calculations. Two, increasing the individual impervious coverage allowance per lot for the purposes of resubmission to the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection for a major revision to the currently approved NPDS permit, the revised NPDS permit from 12,300 square feet per lot to 17,500 square feet per lot on lots 1 through 8 and lots 11 through 17, and 12,300 square feet per lot to 15,000 square feet per lot on lot 10, and constructing each lot's on-lot stormwater management system to accommodate the maximum impervious noted in item 2 above, less any amount permitted under the revised NPDS permit to flow to common stormwater management facilities located elsewhere on the development. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors in Newtown Township, the aforementioned changes to the approved Stony Knoll land development plans are approved, and any formal land development processes are waived for said changes subject to the following. The developer shall obtain an approval from DEP and the DCCD for modification of the NPDS permit. The developer shall obtain approval from the Township Engineer of the revised stormwater management plan and calculations. The developer shall submit a copy of the full NPDS permit modification submission to the Township, and documentation of approval of the modification shall be provided to the Township. The developer must submit plans to the Township Engineer's satisfaction depicting how stormwater will be collected from the various impervious surfaces and conveyed to the basin, in addition to a note on the stormwater bed detail regarding the use of 6 PVC roof drain pipe. The additional drainage plan detail will be required as part of the individual grading permit plans detailing the stormwater collection system on each lot. Volume control calculations are to be provided to the Township Engineer to confirm compliance with applicable Township Code sections, and no further changes are approved unless confirmed by the Township in writing. Said approval is further conditioned upon construction of the aforementioned walking path as offered by the developer. Resolved this 9th day of December 2024 at a public meeting in the Newtown Township Board of Supervisors, and that's my motion.
Second.
Motion was made by the chair, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Section 10, payments, 10.1. Can I get a motion approving the $6,684 payment to High Schwartz for invoices not on the current check run?
So moved. Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. 10.2, can I get a motion approving the $103,107.75 payment to Pennoni for invoices not on the current check run?
So moved. Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. 10.3, can I get a motion approving the $29,760 payment to Dan Kelly Landscaping for 960 hours of assistance with leaf collection not included on the current check run?
So moved. Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board discussion? Mr. Sharitz, question for you. I know that we'll get a report in January on your leaf collections, but can you just update everyone how that's going and status of everything?
Sure. So George Sharitz, Public Works Director. As of this afternoon, we had, I think, 314 truckloads of leaves that have been picked up. So we're actually, although we started zone number 2 for the second time, we still have to go through zone number 3 and zone number 4 for the rest of the year. But we think we've picked up the majority of the bulk of the leaves before Thanksgiving. Leaves came down early this year, and we had a very, very heavy first half of the season. But we're still going to be where we said we're going to be when we said we were going to be there. But again, yeah, 314 truckloads. Usually we're somewhere between 300 and 400 truckloads in a season.
Awesome. I just want to say thank you. I know it's not easy. I know that people don't understand that this is a township benefit that we provide, and so they tend to complain a lot to you and to your staff and actually harass your staff as they're out there. So I just want to say thank you for what they're doing. This board appreciates it, and we thank you for what you guys are doing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do a great job.
Yeah, make sure
Thank
that
you.
they know
Drew,
that
do a
too,
great
George, all right?
job. Will do.
All right. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. 10.4, can I get a motion approving payment number 7, final payment totaling $14,027.25 for LB Construction Enterprises Incorporated associated with the Ellis Avenue Sidewalk Project. This release includes change order number 3 as approved by the Township Engineer.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there any board discussion?
Yeah, I have one. We fixed the crosswalk issue right there, right? Everything's good, right? Right at the.
Yes, we got through the final punch list items that need to be completed with the contractor for the crosswalk.
Thank you.
And the water caps are all fine?
Water cap, so what this got to, we got through the majority of the punch list items and actually came to a reduced cost with the contractor. The one item that was some water caps, we're going to work outside with a separate contractor just to replace about 10 concrete blocks. But that was basically utilizing funds that we've reduced away from this contractor.
Awesome. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. I probably should have made this comment while we were saying this, but if you can relay to Steve Cosgrove, we appreciate the work that he did on this. That sidewalk looks great. It looks like it's been there forever. It's a huge benefit. I see people of all age groups walking on it, riding their bike on it, little kids. It's great. I know there was a lot of pushback on that connectivity. And I know, again, it seems like this is a common theme of harassment. I know that there was a lot of nasty things said to the construction workers. There was a lot of nasty things said to Steve Cosgrove. And while he's a big guy, he has a very sensitive heart. So we know that, just want to make sure he knows that we're appreciative of what he did.
I will be sure to relay that.
Thank you very much. 10.5, can I get a motion approving certificate for payment number 1, final payment totaling $30,735 for Premier Concrete Incorporated associated with the Hilltop Road and Radnor Drive intersection ADA ramp as approved by the Township Engineer?
So moved.
Motion is made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. 10.6, can I get a motion approving certificate for payment number 1 totaling $147,428.07 for Garland DBS Incorporated associated with the municipal complex roof replacement as approved by the Township Engineer, leaving a remaining balance of $714,584.56. Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Section 11, bills. I've reviewed the bills and I'll make a motion approving the bills on check register A 2024 dated December 9, 2024, totaling $570,051.74. Excuse me. Motion was made by the chair, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. 11.2, I've reviewed the bills and I'll make a motion to approve the bills on check register A 2025 dated December 9, 2024, totaling $1,096. Motion was made by the chair, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. 11.3, I have reviewed the bills and I'll make a motion to approve the bills ratifying the bills on EFT register dated December 15, 2024, totaling $25,114.89. Motion is made by the chair, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Section 12, developers escrow establishment, 12.1. Can I get a motion approving the establishment of an escrow account totaling $66,687 from Toll Brothers to cover all costs associated with the remaining punch list items in the listed development as recommended by Stantec Engineering?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there any board discussion?
Nease.
Yes.
We've asked this before, I've never gotten an answer. What is left on this punch list and what was the outcome of the sidewalk samples?
Yes.
I mean, this is a huge development. I know now the last time we had a meeting, there was issues with the trees that were taken down and just laying on the ground. I don't know that $66,000 is enough to clean up. There's a lot of stuff going on up there.
So.
And we never have anybody from Stantec come here so we can ask them questions. I mean, they're getting paid for this. Why don't they come in, especially when there's 6 items on here to release? Or at least agreed to.
What I can tell you is that, having had conversation with Giovanna, there are, related to what's left, there are a few minor adjustments that need to be made to a stormwater management piece. And then everything else is pretty much minor throughout the rest of the project at this point. When it comes to the sidewalks, I have asked not only 2 things we've done. There is an agreement that I've been told that exists and agreed to that is between the association, 8 homeowners association and Toll Brothers, related to the sign off on the sidewalks. In addition, I've had our team go out and look at the sidewalks. There's nothing that would cause us to require a replacement immediately at this time. There is some chipping of the top layer, but all of the sidewalks are still level. They're still walkable. They're not tripping hazards. There's none of that going on. Related to the other pieces here, these are all things that have been completed by Toll Brothers. The question related to the trees, I've tried to address with the homeowners association and them understanding that we've never required that the trees be removed. That was not part of the agreement when the original agreement was put together. The only place where a tree would need to be removed was if the HOA decided that it was like right up next to somebody's property. But we've said that in the open space, the whole idea was for the trees to actually stay because they do provide habitat for the wildlife that's in the area. And so those are the conversations that we've had. My understanding is that there has been an agreement with Toll Brothers, like I said, and the HOA. This 66,000 really refers to the last few things that have to be filled up or finished off, and that's why the releases are here.
Well, and the other 2 things are that the former office they're converting to the post office, and the one remaining lone building that sits in the middle of that swampy area. I mean, are they gonna come back here a year from now and ask us to tear that down because they're not maintaining that? Is anybody looking at that before Toll Brothers leaves? I mean, we let them take down the swamp house, we let them take down the big barn. So the question is this stuff getting looked at?
Let me ask you this question. Do you want, this isn't an escrow release. So there's not a requirement on it, correct?
So this is
The establishment of an escrow account.
This is establishing, what I was going to tell you is this is kind of taking in place of assuming that 1, 2, 3, and 4 get taken care of. They're putting cash up to take, these releases would have been done if you would agree to these releases. It would have been done, and there would have been 66,000 left on the dollar value for the project left to do. Toll Brothers was desirous not to hold a bond for $66,000. They said, let's just put up cash. And they've actually issued the check. We have it in hand. We just haven't cashed it pending your decision tonight.
So the reason why I asked that question, well, I guess that kind of complicates procedurally because we have to release these escrow releases. And I'm guessing we're coming up on the time crunch for that in order for us to do 12-1. The reason why I'm going down this lane is to your point, and you brought it up a couple of times. If we want to have Stantec come in and do a presentation to us.
I mean, I don't understand on a development that size with all the different things that are remaining out there, we wouldn't have the person come. They're getting paid. They get paid every time they attend. Then they shouldn't be the engineer on this project if they don't want to come to the meeting. And we just let the other guy from Stantec leave. I mean, that's fine. I'm a no on everything, so I'm not voting on anything.
Let me ask you a question. 13.1 through 13.4. What is that? I mean, like I said, I'm pretty sure we're at the time crunch, right? What, final release is
It'll
what,
be
15 days?
before your next meeting, it'll be.
Okay.
What does that mean?
So when you have I'll let him explain
The
it.
time will, you gotta. What's that?
So
If you don't deny it, it'll be deemed approved. If you deny it, you have to have a reason to deny it. They
Not
can,
enough information to make a decision because there's nobody here to answer the questions.
no, I guess my question is if we deny it, what does the time crunch mean? I
No,
mean,
it's
nothing.
not denied.
then it's a fight over why you denied it.
So when they send that they send in their letter and they say they want the escrow released. The engineer looks at it and says everything's okay, comes to the township. We have 15 days for a final. Was it 30 for a preliminary?
Yeah, 45, yeah.
45 days under the MPC. We only have 15 days to approve it. If we don't approve it, if we're silent on it, it's just essentially a deemed approval.
Right.
If we reject it, we have to tell them why we're rejecting it, and then it becomes we have to litigate over the why we're rejecting it.
litigate it, or can we just reject it pending? So they have to come in and explaining.
You can, but it won't have, you know, money.
The money's still released.
I mean, we have the,
I don't want to pay Stantec. That, I've brought this up on numerous occasions. They should have been here tonight to talk about this.
Okay.
On a final release, you don't have them here.
I mean, I
It's
do remember,
unacceptable.
I
It's
remember,
unacceptable.
I remember him asking that.
It's unacceptable. I've asked every time they come here for money, we're letting them go, and they're affecting however many people live in that development. It's unacceptable. Whatever you want. I'm a no on everything.
What's the board's desire? We're at 12.1 right now.
The money goes to anyway. What's the difference? It should never have been put on the agenda until we had confirmation from them what was done. And we don't know what any of this stuff even relates to. Go ahead and take your votes.
What's the
I
board want
don't
to
want
do?
to sit here all night and discuss this. It's too late now. It's on the agenda. Should never been placed on the agenda.
Yes or no?
Doesn't matter. They're gonna release the money anyway. It's a moot point.
If they had the 15 days. And the engineer basically said it's engineer.
So I mean, are we gonna?
I want the phone number in my email tomorrow morning, the head of Stantec's office where these people sit. I'm gonna have a conversation with that person.
But even at the next meeting, it's past the 15-day
I
deadline.
understand that.
Well, we're still gonna have that Stantec come in for the
Doesn't
remaining
matter. It's
66,000.
useless. The person was supposed to be here tonight. I've asked this now numerous times. Go ahead and take the vote.
Ready to move forward? Okay, so there was a motion made and seconded. Desiree, who was it? Who made and seconded it?
This motion is to establish an escrow account.
This is just
Not-
12.1.
This
This
is
is
the
this is 12.1. So motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis for 12.1 to establish the escrow. There's no more board discussion. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
No.
All those opposed, motion carries 3-1. Okay, now we'll move down to 13, developer release. 13.1, consider approving escrow reduction number 14, the final reduction totaling $44,658.81 for Toll Brothers associated with the Lister Phase 1 project as approved by Stantec Engineering. Is there a motion? Motion is made by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there a second? I'll second it for conversational purposes. Any other board discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
No.
Motion fails. 13.2, can I get a motion approving escrow reduction number 7, the final reduction totaling $14,140.38 for Toll Brothers associated with the Lister Phase 2 project as approved by Stantec Engineering? Is there a second? I will second the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All's opposed? Motion fails 2-2 with Supervisor Russo and Chandler voting against. 13.3, can I get a motion approving escrow reduction number 7, the final reduction totaling $24,119.20 for Toll Brothers associated with the Lister Phase 3 project as approved by Stantec Engineering? Is there a second? I will second. Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by by the chairman. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion fails with Supervisor Russo and Chandler voting against. 13.4, can I get a motion approving escrow reduction number 8, the final reduction totaling $111,156.21 for Toll Brothers associated with the Lister Phase 4 project as approved by Stantec Engineering? Second by me, by the chair. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
No.
Motion fails 2-2 with Supervisor Chandler and Russo voting against. Just so we're clear, 13.5 is not related to Lister. I'll make sure everybody's awake on this one. 13.5, can I get a motion approving escrow reduction number 8 totaling $19,101.54 from Polig Homes LLC associated with the Stony Knoll project as approved by the Township Engineer, leaving a remaining balance of $853,085.94.
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Chandler. Is there any board discussion?
Mr. Johnson, what's the $19,000 for?
It is largely for some culvert pipes at the various driveways to the lots and some ENS control measurements. So
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor, any other board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Okay, section 14, new business, 14.1. Can I get a motion considering awarding the Upper St. Albans Stormwater Improvement Contract to the lowest responsible bidder, Jurek Inc., in the amount of $399,371 to be paid from ARPA funding? Motion is made by Supervisor Chandler, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. 14.2, can I get a motion approving the Water's Edge Stormwater Improvement Contract to the lowest responsible bidder, Miller Soil Solutions LLC, in the amount of $114,480.90 to be paid from the ARPA funding? Motion was made by Supervisor Chandler, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any other board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. 14.3, can I get a motion considering awarding engineering services for stormwater projects to Pennoni at a cost of $215,000 to be paid from the ARPA funding? Motion is made by Supervisor Chandler, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any other board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. 14.4, consider approving the location and style of the donated bench to be installed at the Meadow Preserve. Let's get this motion going and then we'll turn it over to Mr. Nease. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Chandler, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco, and we'll turn it over to Mr. Nease.
Yes, I believe it was back in the February timeframe. I came to you. We had a person who was going to donate a bench to be put out in the Meadow Preserve. The original design was to be a wooden bench that was going to be kind of about halfway out through the walk that you would be able to have a place to sit and ponder and look back over the preserve. They have since come back and come in with a design of the bench that I hope you've had a chance to look at. It's a lovely bench. However, it weighs 500 pounds. And so for us to get it to that location in the field where it would be and to make sure that it wouldn't sink into the ground in that location, we had some concerns. George and I've talked, it would probably take some equipment getting back there and things like that. So our recommendation was if they wanted to donate this style of bench, that we would put it in the, we're doing the paved parking lot or the paved ADA accessible area at the Meadow Preserve. We're going to open up a view shed to be able to look out over the meadow. And so The idea would be if you would approve this location change and this style change, that would be where the bench would go. We don't think we could effectively put it into the Meadow Reserve without putting in a foundation. This would allow us to have the foundation already there because of the parking lot and those kind of things. The person is out of the area right now. She'll be back in January. We'll review this with her in January when she comes back, but we've been told that she's definitely interested and thought that this was a reasonable way to go. And so because we had gotten your agreement to put it someplace else and it was a different style at the time, that's why it's before you tonight.
And she is open to the location that you discussed?
That's fine. That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. All right. Let's start it off with Mr. Pollock. This, I don't know if this came before Parks and Rec, but I'll ask you since you're sitting here.
This was proposed by Paul Seligson, who knows this woman, and it was presented to Parks and Rec. We discussed it publicly, and we're in favor of it, especially with it being opened up. It's a place for disabled residents to sit, might not have access to the Meadow Preserve otherwise, so we're in unanimous favor of it.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Paul, do you want to add anything?
Paul Seligson, 4727 Mill Hollow Lane, only that the lady in question is donating not only the bench, but the manpower to move it around. So the installation is paid by her, so to speak. So it should not be a burden to Public Works or any township entity.
And Paul, just because you've spoken to her, she's fine with the location of where we're proposing it?
I've explained it to her over the phone. She'd like to look at it, but
Okay.
I think she's fine with it.
Okay. So should we hold off until we get confirmation from her, or like, what's the urgency on it now?
According to Mr. Nease, he doesn't want to do anything until January anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, you said that's when she would be back.
right.
Yeah, so we won't be setting it till later, but if you're at least in agreement with that if you approve that, then we can move forward as soon as we can get to the spot to set it. If not, we would have to wait to bring it back to you when we get to that spot, but.
George, can you go for the electric, please? So we have a bobcat in the back. We have a bobcat in the backhoe and they can't get back there with this bench?
So there's a couple things. One, getting down there, even with the equipment that we have, would be problematic because the whole area is very hilly. It's on a hillside. The other issue is that if it was a wooden bench that could be moved to a different location, when the master plan is finally executed at the Meadow Preserve, that bench location may be in a good location or it may not be in a good location. If we have to pour a foundation and have a stone bench there, it's going to be problematic to move it. But if it's up at the top of where there's an overlook, I think there's much more of a chance of it being a good permanent spot.
But I think the whole idea of the bench is if you have an elderly person or somebody that's not as physically mobile, they go out for a long walk, they get tired, they take a rest at this bench, which is, I guess, on the opposite of the parking lot.
Yeah, so the original location was down, I guess, closer to the Episcopal side, well into the preserve. And there are certainly going to be benches when the master plan is done. It's just that this particular bench with a foundation necessary, we thought it would be wiser to put it up at the overlook.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So we have a motion, it's been seconded. Any other board discussion here?
Just so I'm clear, what's the motion then? The motion is to approve the location being the
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Sounds like it's gonna be the location of the overlook and the style of the bench to be donated. Is that correct?
Correct.
And in the event that Paul has a conversation with this individual and she doesn't like the location, guess we're just coming back for the location?
We'll come back to you again and figure out.
Everybody fine with that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. 14.5, can I get a motion approving Delmont Utilities Incorporated to remove the silt deposits at the end of the culvert on Paper Mill Road at a base cost of $11,305 with a total cost not to exclude $18,031. The public works staff will be used to supplement work upon execution of the adjacent property owner of permission in a form acceptable to the township manager and solicitor.
I move.
Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Chandlis. Is there any board discussion?
It's not to exceed 18,000.
Oh, sorry, it should say to exceed 18,301. Any other board discussion?
George, can you explain this? So we're paying this company $11,300 for the operator and the machine for one day, and if he goes more than one day, it's then possibly 18,031.
So it should certainly not go more than one day. This is to get a long reach excavator in there along with an operator. Delmont doesn't have, and we've searched around, there aren't any companies nearby that have their own long reach excavators that we could contract with. It should certainly not go more than one day.
Okay.
Any other board comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Okay, we're going to now move to 14.6. Mr. Neese, I believe you have a presentation on the budget. So we're looking for tonight for approval of the budget. A couple things that I would like to talk about. The budget that you approved to advertise, I'm not going through all that again. You've seen that. So I'm just going to focus on what we've focused on over the last 20 days, trying to help get this budget to a spot that we think is where you all would like it, as well as what's reasonable for the township. So I'm going to go through where all the changes are, and then I'll put it back to you for direction from there. But so under the general fund changes that we looked at, we did make adjustments that needed to be made in the budget to cover the proposal of the police contract, as you mentioned earlier. With all of that had left us a gap of 928,000. From that, we said that we had advertised the budget with a 0.0093 millage increase, increasing the real estate taxes by $340,690, leaving us a gap of 587,578. So with having some conversations with some of you as board members, talking more with our staff, some of the things that we came back with, we said we could probably increase real estate tax transfer 25,000 and local services tax 25,000, hoping for a couple things as we go forward. The economy continues to go up, and so hopefully we'll get more hires into the township, and some of those things, some of the businesses will bring people back on the local services tax. But also some people, we kind of had a slow market. I mean, not that people aren't buying, people are buying very quickly, just people aren't listing their houses. And so hopefully that market will turn back around and be back to what it was, or at least moving in that direction. So that's the additional 25. Interest on investments continues to be really very good return right now. So we are putting 50,000 more into that. The next two are revenue increases related to rental license inspections and rental licenses themselves.
We're proposing a $10 increase on each unit. That is the additional unit. So there's a base for rental inspections. The first 3 inspections are $50, and then we say for $20 an inspection going thereafter, we're going to increase that to $30 if it's all done in the same day. And then the second piece is under the rental license itself. The first rental license is $75. Each additional unit that's in that one same address is $10. Again, we would increase that $10. This is directly related to the cost of the folks in that department that run that, and this just offsets that cost. So that's why we recommended that. Then we talked about some possible reductions of expenses. And so we looked at the road program, cutting out $200,000 out of it this year, cutting out the $50,000 from the Public Works vehicle replacement, $25,000 from the fire department vehicle replacement, $10 from part-time codes hours, $6,500 from the increase for the library. I think they requested $13,000. We basically said, we'll give you the increase, but we give you $6,500. Move the police cars from the general fund to the capital fund. And this will be based on if we have a significant enough 2024 surplus. We moved the recycle containers from the general fund to the capital fund with the idea that we would be charging for people getting the new cycle containers, and that money would go back into the capital fund. And then we would eliminate the contribution to the Marple Newtown Recreation. And this was at their statement to us. We weren't wanting to just do that. They came to us and said, we're not requesting the funds for this year, so that comes out of the budget. So if we take the 588.7 gap, we had $105,000, 105,500 that would be revenue increases. Revenue reductions was $482,349, which meant that we actually were positive $271 to do that. The next area that there was a change, and this was after looking at what was going on with the streetlight fund and what was going on with the hydrant fund. On the streetlight fund, we recommend actually doing a increase of 0.0025 mils to increase the revenue to $1,564, which would increase the revenue of the real estate tax collection for the streetlight fund to $38,644. And where we see this is that would actually now give us a positive on the streetlight fund. And the importance of that is that in the next, we put in streetlights, I believe it was back, George took off, I believe it was back in 2017. Their life expectancy is 10 to 15 years, and then we would have to replace those again. So we're trying to build up enough of the fund balance there so that we would have enough monies to be able to pay for those streetlight replacements. And so so instead of having that fund balance going down as it was because we weren't having enough there, this would increase it. And then we went to the hydrant fund, and we actually reduced that by the same amount that we increased the streetlight fund, so that it was basically an even. However, there's actually savings. There's actually more of a savings because there's more people that pay for the hydrant. This is based, streetlights is based on how close you are to the streetlights. Hydrants are based on how close you are to the hydrants. And therefore that number of savings would, or that number, of savings would be $7,992, dropping the real estate tax revenue $95,000 to $95,902. And as you can see, we still maintain a healthy fund balance there. So then we looked at the capital fund. And so we looked at, our concern with the capital fund. These are one-time expenditures, but we were also looking at the fund balance and trying to make sure we weren't too significantly cutting into the fund balance. So the facilities expense, we looked at, there were 2 projects that we were going to do. One was replacing the patio at the library. The other was doing a full insulation in this building, not blown insulation, but foam insulation in the rafters. We put both of those projects on hold for 2025. We are looking at increasing the capital fund expenditures for the police vehicles, which we talked about. We recommend taking a loan for the purchase of the fire equipment, the fire rescue truck. That truck is going to cost we think it's going to be $1.25 million. So $1,250,000. The township would put down 10% of it. We would do a loan for the 1.25. The payments would work out to be, I believe, if I remember right, about $132,000 a year for 10 years over the life. I think the interest rate was about 3.5%, just a little over 3.5%. If we move relatively close to where we are today, time-wise, we'll start working on that and bring that back to you in January. The other thing that I would mention on that, those expenses, the fire trucks are big expenses. It makes, it's reasonable to do a note for those. As you can see, we did a note for the ladder truck. It's amazing that the ladder truck we did I think it was about 2.5 years ago, was exactly the same price as what a rescue truck is today. So I wouldn't even know what the ladder truck would be. They just are going up every year. And so the key that we want to do is lock in this price that we have with them. If we pay the money up front, which is why we would do the loan that we would do, we actually receive somewhere between $100,000 to $250,000 savings. The interest will cost us about $60,000 for the 2 years while the truck is being made. Plus, we'll be making the payments on it. And so we'll be moving forward. We're doing it as a 10-year note. The truck should last 15. That'll give us time to get the ladder and that truck paid off so that we can also get ready to take care of the engine that will need to be replaced in probably another about 7 years. I think it is 5 or 7 years. The reduced street repaving program, I talked about cutting $200,000 out of the general fund. We would then reduce what we were going to actually spend in the capital. We do a transfer over for that. We do need to increase for the Gable Field. That price came in a little higher, and that's $105,880. We did talk about the fact when you get down to that project that some of those dollars will be coming from the ARPA funding. We're doing that because that underneath that whole field is a stormwater management, and they're going to actually look at that system and regrade in there and improve that system. So the stormwater management system is getting improved just a little bit in that process. So that's why we're using those dollars. I would make note that these projects that we mentioned for stormwater, yes, they're expenses, they're one-time expenses, and yes, they're being paid for with one-time monies. We need to have under contract these monies going into 2020, end of 2024 to meet the ARPA requirements. And that's why those are before you tonight, so that we meet those requirements. We're planning on having all of those projects done by June of next year and have expended out the ARPA dollars, which will meet the requirements that is part of that.
And I just want to make sure that point's clear. So when we were awarded the ARPA money, the board earmarked all 1.4 million, I believe we received, for stormwater projects.
We did.
That's correct. And as you said, part of the requirement of the ARPA funds is that they need to be earmarked by the conclusion of 2024.
Contracted
by 2024, or it's the old adage of you use it or lose it.
Correct.
If they're not contracted, then we have to return that back to the federal government. So that's why we're seeing so much stormwater projects. It is a one-time capital coming from the federal stimulus dollars, because that's what you do when you get one-time money. You don't put it in recurring costs, you put it in capital projects, correct?
Many municipalities made it part of their reoccurring budgets and are now trying to figure out how to manage around that. This board wisely did not do it. We needed stormwater projects, and that's what we're doing.
Perfect.
Again, this is probably the biggest change, to be honest with you. I think we were at about 1.9 was where we were going to end our fund balance at the end of 2023. We're going to be at 3.1, and most of that's because we're looking at doing the loan for the truck. That's added $1 million. And then there was also some minor changes in regards to the monies that we moved. The projects that we're not doing will change some of those fund balances so that we continue to hold a reasonable fund balance in the capital area.
And Steve, the ladder truck, I mean, that is the actual requirement of us under the second-class township code to provide emergency services. But because we have a volunteer fire company, they are the ones who essentially have been providing that service. But understanding that they have difficulties with both manpower and fundraising, we've been buying the apparatus, essentially leasing it to the fire company so that in the hopeful, never inevitable future, if we have to flip that switch to a full-time paid department, we have the apparatus already lined up. So we're planning for the future on that.
That is absolutely correct. And let's face it, if we have to choose whether they're spending their time fundraising or spending their time fighting fires, I would rather them fight fires and us focus on the other, and do that. But they still need to raise money to cover lots of expenses that they have. We're just covering the big ticket items, like the fire trucks. And that way, if something happened, that the fire company wasn't here, we would be able to continue to do that.
And I know it's not part of this budget, so I don't want to conflate it with what we're discussing, but high level, if the fire department ever went to a full-time professional staff, what's that number estimate?
Yeah, I mean, I've been estimating, I had one point, it said it was you would about double your taxes. I don't think it's quite that now as the taxes have gone up. I think it's at least 50% increase to cover what that cost is, because it's about equivalent to a police department.
Yeah.
And that's what the police department costs.
So
Yeah.
what do we do with what do they do with the old truck when we replace them?
Yeah, so the last time they actually, remember, the old trucks are actually theirs right now. We did not purchase the old trucks, those are theirs. My understanding is the old ladder truck has, I believe, been sold to I don't remember if it was Kentucky or Tennessee, to a fire company down there that's using that now. The rescue truck, I'm not sure what their steps will be exactly. They have talked about holding on to it for a little bit. The reason why it's important the big issue with these fire trucks and why we're trying to keep the fire trucks current is because the ISO ratings that we get from our insurance companies say that the trucks cannot be more than 15 years old if we're going to hold our insurance rates for our residents at a certain level. If those trucks,
our homeowners insurance.
our homeowners insurance, right. And it obviously benefits the township's rates as well, but it is the individual homeowner's rate. And so if we allow the trucks to get much older than that 15 years, there's a direct impact on our folks. And so one of the reasons why we've started doing this is that very reason, is to make sure that we keep these trucks current so that everybody benefits from having good quality trucks on the road. There's a lot of debate whether it needs to be 15 years or not for a lot of these trucks. They're designed, that reason is for most of the time because it's like a city of Philadelphia that's calling out and they get a whole lot of, their trucks are used very differently than ours. But that's not the issue that we have to go with. The insurance company says it's based off of that for this region. And so therefore our trucks have a 15-year life. And that's the reason why we look at replacing them every 15 years.
Anything else, Mr. Nease?
Those are the changes. I'm glad to answer any questions. Everything else was in the packet that as advertised. And I'm glad to answer any questions that you have.
I guess one thing I just want to kind of touch on, you kind of touched on it a little bit. I mean, obviously, the economy is what's driving a lot of the costs that we see here. Healthcare costs, is it correct to say, essentially went up 6.5%, around $64,000?
That is correct.
The police costs just to operate the police department contractually without the $390,000. Fire department around $12,000. Just to continue to provide the services that we want to provide to the residents. Snow removal, is it correct, went up around $10,000 just because of the cost of salt and gasoline that we're budgeting for with that regional partnership. And pensions up 19,000, insurance up 42,000. So we've taken a scalpel, we've taken an axe to this budget to ensure that we continue to be not only the preeminent township, but also to provide the services that our residents deserve. One thing I just want to flesh out a little bit more, I know I talked about the federal stimulus dollars with regards to stormwater capital projects. Is there any capital fund balances that are being used for reoccurring costs?
No.
Thank you. Okay, that's all I had. Any other comments from the board? All right, then we will move down to 17.2, Resolution 2024-32, setting the 2025 Township millage rate. Supervisor San Francisco.
I think you want to do a first motion to actually approve the budget at first and then set your millage.
So I will, where was that? 14.6. Is there a motion to approve the 2025 Township budget? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Russo. Is there any board discussion or additional board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. We'll now move to 17.3. 17.2, Resolution 2024-32, setting the Township 2025 Township millage rate. Supervisor San Francisco.
Resolution of the Township of Newtown in the County of Delaware, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Tax rate for the year 2025. Be it resolved and enacted and is hereby levied. Be it resolved and enacted and hereby levied on the real estate property within the Township of Newtown, the tax rate for general purposes of 1.9777 mils on each dollar assessed of valuation, or the sum of $197.77 on each $100,000 assessed valuation. The assessment for fire hydrants is 0.0300 mils on each dollar assessed valuation, or the sum of $3 on each $100,000 assessed valuation, whether or not the property is exempt from taxation. The assessment for streetlights is 0.0377 mils on each dollar assessed valuation, or the sum of $3.77 on each $100,000 of assessed valuation, if located in a streetlight district, whether or not the property is exempt from taxation. Adopted on this 9th day of December 2024. That is my resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Russo. Is any other board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Mr. Chair, do you wish to, since you're handling that resolution, do you want to handle the resolution for the fee schedule at the same time?
Mr. Neese, you read my mind, sorry.
Okay.
We will now move to 17.3, Resolution 2024-33, approving the 2025 Township fee schedule. Supervisor Chanlis.
Okay. Resolution 2024-33, resolution to approve the 2025 Township fee schedule. Whereas from time to time, the Board of Supervisors of the Township of Newtown, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, reviews and revises various fees for services provided by the township. Now therefore, in consideration of the above, the Board of Supervisors of the Township of Newtown does hereby resolve as follows. The Township of Newtown's comprehensive fee schedule attached to this resolution as Exhibit A is approved. The Township Administration is directed to make this fee schedule available to the public and charge fees for services consistent therewith. Resolved this 9th day of December 2024, and that's my motion.
Motion is made by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, motion carries. 14.7. I get a motion authorizing the township manager to sign the 2025 renewal contract with Dandelions Digital, which will include the incorporation of Zen City at an annual cost of $47,300. Is there a second? Motion was made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carries. 14.8, can I get a motion approving the lease of a new copier through PA CoStar's contract 001-014 for the police department in the amount of $260 a month for a 5-year term? Motion is made by Supervisor San Francisco, seconded by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carries. 14.9, can I get a motion approving the Gable Park turf replacement by Miller Sports Construction at a cost of $655,880 using the remaining ARPA funding and capital fund? Motion is made by Supervisor Chandler, seconded by Supervisor Russo. Is there any board discussion?
Yeah, I just want to note, I just want to make sure that we coordinate with the soccer association and make sure that it's usable by the, for soccer players. And my understanding is that you might even be able to get 3 fields laid out there, possible. So I'd like to make sure we look at that.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So the pricing was not going to change based on how we wound up laying the fields out. We had known when we got the proposal in that we were going to work with Marlboro Newtown Recreation on all of the entities that utilize that field. Marlboro Newtown Soccer Association, lacrosse, all the baseball groups, et cetera. So yes, we will definitely be coordinating that to make sure it's sized properly.
Thank you, George. Any other board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carries. 14.10, can I get a motion approving the 2025 fee schedule for Herbert E. McCumbee Jr. PE Engineering? Motion was made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor San Francisco. Is there any board discussion? Is this as the sewer enforcement engineer, or are we setting it because of the?
Well, because they're doing certain projects in the town right now, we've taken theirs. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to appoint them as the alternate going in 2025. I'm not sure they're still the alternate. I have to look at it, but if you were to appoint them as the alternate, that would be the fee. But they have some projects they're doing on our behalf from time to time, and this is related to the sewer. So this would be the billing that we would pay. They also will have it on the municipal authority side as well.
Okay, all right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carries. 14.11, can I get a motion considering the discussion of the 2025? Oh, we already did
You've
that.
already done that.
Did that one. So then we'll move down to board comment, section 18.
I just have, going back to Supervisor Russo, Tech has to come in.
Okay.
And do something for us and explain everything, because this just can't continue the way it is, the way we're having here. He's 100% right, and they need to be held accountable in front of the community and us with this project.
Yep.
And in the meantime, she can send a list of all the things during that $66,000. And I want to know what's the status of that building. That last building, when I'm on this board, is never going to be torn down. Okay, they agreed to take care of it, and I've driven by and it doesn't look like they're doing anything. They're letting it fall down like the swamp house, and they're going to come in and say, oh, it's too expensive to fix.
Any other board comment? The only other board comment that I have is that tomorrow from 6 to 9 p.m. at Casey's in Newtown Square, Sheila Turner Hilliard and I, who is the president of the Newtown Square Business Association, will be guest bartending at Casey's. 30% of all bar sales will be directed to the fire company. So even if you're not sitting at the bar, but you order a beverage at a booth or a high top or a table, 30% of all that revenue will go directly to the fire company. So I want to thank Casey, specifically Pete Crisanti, who is a resident here, for that generous offer. I want to thank Sheila Turner Hilliard for the idea, and I hope that it's a standing room only. So I hope to see everybody out there. All right, section 19, public comment. Is there any other public comment? If you can, sir, just state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Justin Hunt, Toll Brothers team lead, solicitor. Thank you for your time this evening. I appreciate your follow-up, Paul. I would like to formally ask for the reason of the denial of the 4 leases. I understand you'd like to have Stantec here. I've been involved in the project for the past 2 years. I've been with Toll for 10 years. Put over $2 million of improvements into the project. since the summer of 2022. I know the project like the back of my hand. If you have questions, I'd love for you to ask me, because I can give you answers. I don't know what that'll do to your decision tonight. Steve's a busy man. You asked him a few questions. I know those answers. So I just wanted to put that out there. I know exactly what makes up the $66,000, Mike. There's 4 items. There's infiltration berms that were installed earlier this year. And as we all know, we didn't get much rain this year, so they're not green. They need to be green. So we agreed to post cash through the winter, through the spring, reevaluate that they're green. Number 2, there's some damaged pavers at the entrance that needs to be fixed. Number 3, out of the 106 facilities, stormwater facilities, there are 2 that are not 100% functional. Catherine, those 2 are going to have a minor remediation performed in them. We've gotten DEP's approval. It's at the Conservation District's office for approval. As soon as they say go, we're going to complete the work. And number 4, the as-bills. We're on our 3rd round of comments. Stantec is catching everything as they should. 3rd round, over 1 year, getting these as-bills approved. So the $66,000 incorporates 4 items. That's it. Everything else is complete. What I just explained is memorialized in a letter that Stantec issued on the 20th of November. I'm not sure if anyone's seen that letter. They've also issued letters memorializing the recommendation of release for those 4 escrows. I don't know if anyone's seen those letters. We meet with G, Steve and I every month. I talk to her every week. I'm not sure she needs to be here, but I'm not the board, right? But if we just want a warm and fuzzy from Stantec, she's going to agree that these need to be released. Is there anything else I'm missing? Any other reason?
Before we talk, before we say anything, Rich, do you have any objection to us engaging in this? No?
Engage in. If you want to engage in it, you're free to engage in it.
Okay.
Right, getting the money on, so. Point is,
Your comment, Mike.
there's been all kinds of problems out there since the day you guys stepped foot on the site. Every time we meet with somebody from Toll, we're gonna take care of all this stuff. And inevitably comes back, we need relief from this, we need relief from that. And at some point, someone's gotta be accountable. So again, the last standing building that you haven't torn down yet is that old spring house in the middle of that area. We've never gotten a report. We never got anything back on that. And again, what's gonna happen is you guys are gonna go away, the $66,000 are gonna go away, and they're gonna come back here a year from now and say, oh, we gotta tear this thing down, it's in tatters, just like the swamp house that they had people living in there the whole time DuPont was on the estate. Again, because you guys didn't maintain it. And at some point in time, you have to be accountable. And as far as I'm concerned, I've seen no accountability out of Toll. Now all those trees are cut down on that berm or on the hill coming down Goshen Road. And we're told you guys did it. And I'm guessing, do you just leave them all laying down there? Are you going to clean it up? You're going to take them away? You know, that's not the way I leave job sites. I'm in the development business. So I guess, again, that's my questions.
I believe you're referring to the work in natural lands.
There's all kinds of, there's an area of land behind those homes that abut Goshen Road. There was a bunch of trees taken down up there and just in all different stages just laid on the ground.
Recently?
Yeah, just in the last month or so. I don't know.
Yeah. So that's per the agreement that we have with the township.
I know, but so my point is, why aren't they taken away? When we cut a tree down in the township, we take it away. We don't leave it laying on the ground so that when you guys leave, whenever the $66,000 worth of work is done, and then the homeowners association is going to say, well, that's what Toll left. and then it's just gonna be there for eternity.
Understood. That's correct. We were directed to fell them only. And that came at the direction of John Hosback, your consultant. Your consultant was out there and witnessed all the work.
Okay.
He issued his punch list today.
Again, the engineer's got to come in here because she cannot approve any more release of anything to you, or else we will fire her and find a new engineer. That's not the way it works in the real world. Maybe in Newtown Square, I wish I did every development here. I could get anything done as fast as I want, as cheap as I want. It's not the real world. Okay, that's not how things get released. The engineer comes in and reports on a project this size. This is a massive project. And you're saying there's only 2 of these basins or 2 of these infiltration areas that have problems. Okay, again, you leave, a year from now, they come in and there's all these problems. It's a system that's very, very sensitive. It's very, very difficult. And as you said yourself, these last 2 or 3 or 4 things aren't even working properly. So again, I want her to come in here and tell us that. And there's no reason she can't. She's on your escrow. And that's what happens in the real world, not in Newtown Square, but in the real world where I do business. And that's what's upsetting to me. Because if you go to Radnor, you go to Lower Marion, you'd be there until you're past your retirement to close that job out of this size. It would never happen. So that's why I'm frustrated, because it's just not what going to happen. Is they're going to come in here and ask for relief when you guys leave, and they're not going to be able to go back to you, and then we're going to have problems. And I can see it. It's not if, it's when. And that's the frustration level.
Understood. I'm in close contact with Paul Winterhalter, with the HOA. And I can tell you there's a fully executed settlement between Toll and the HOA. You're right, the stormwater was their number 1 concern. And once these bonds are released, no, we're not going. We've got to get through DEP with our notice of termination. That will likely take a year. So if there's issues with those 106 facilities, Delaware County is going to let us know.
Okay.
So
Well, again, we don't have to
Well,
debate
yeah.
this all night.
If we're not
I just
reopening,
want Giovanna here, and if not, you have the president or whoever's in charge of that office here next time to explain what's going on. And that's the real world, Steve. I'm done with this, these people just sending a letter in. There's all kinds of questions, and this is a very complicated system. And unfortunately, this gentleman, our township engineer, wasn't involved in that. So we continue with the former township engineer, and they need to be present. It's not, they sign off on something that comes up for a vote. There's no more release of anything.
any other comment, Mr. Hunt?
I appreciate it. Obviously, that's your call. So is it safe to say that, assuming G is here for the meeting, this will be on January's agenda?
I think that if G is here, well, I mean, the vote was taken, the vote failed. So we would have to technically, I guess, re-vote it again. What I would tell you to do, is this. Contact the professional staff and they'll give you the direction on how it's gonna, the vote's not gonna be reopened tonight. So just contact Mr. Nease or Mr. Sikora and they'll direct you on what the next steps are gonna be on that. Thank you, Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, guys.
Any other public comment? Mr. Skoukis.
Alex Skoukis, 33 Dunmanning Road. I had the strangest interaction just at the end of our talk about Aronimink. Mr. San Francisco was out there talking to the general manager of Aronimink and their groundskeeper. And that groundskeeper, they were talking separately. That groundskeeper came up to me and he said, "I'm the one that didn't get back to you. And the reason I didn't get back to you is because Mr. Johnson is on the case." That's what he said. He said, "I know Mr. Johnson is looking out for all that land, and we're just going to do what he says to do." And boy, oh boy, what Mr. Russo just talked about with the gentleman that just left who said, "Hey, the deal was..."
Did you hear we just voted on having Delmont Utilities come out to work on your pond?
This has got nothing to do with that. This has got nothing to do with that.
Yes, it does. That's what you're talking about, your pond.
No, I'm talking about the Aronimink project and what the gentleman out there who said the reason he didn't get back to me is because anything to do with the cutting of the trees there is Mr. Johnson's responsibility. And he said, "We'll do only what Mr. Johnson says when it comes to this 10 acres of cutting." And Mr. Russo, you just exploded at this gentleman who said, "Hey, the deal was we only had to
know what you're
fell."
talking about because that's not true. It's a land development issue. An issue that's come before the board here.
Yeah, but my point is that when we get to that point, when it's before the board and everyone's out here arguing for and against it, and I'm not for or against it, they're just my neighbors. But the reason they say that they won't talk to me about what they're all doing up in there is because they're talking to the engineer. So when we get to this point of deciding what we're gonna do with this 10 acres of felling of trees along St. David's Road, that we should, make sure that everything is dotted and the deals are done so that we don't have to come back years down the road. And let's say we have a different engineer and end up in the same situation. It's just strange to me that the guy would say, hey, we're not going to talk to you people. You guys go talk to Mr. Johnson and we'll talk to Mr. Johnson when it comes to that new project that's coming up. And that's all I wanted to say about that.
Thank you, Mr. Skokie.
Thank you.
Eric, you want to address anything since your name was brought up?
I'm not sure of this direction that the grounds keeper of Aronimink is making.
I would say he takes direction for you.
Yeah, yes, I'm involved in the application coming forth, but specifically what he's referring to, I am not.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Johnson, well, since you seem to make all the decisions, can you fix the light at Valley View Lane and Westchester Pike as well? No. All right, if there's no further public comments, this meeting's adjourned, and have everybody have a safe and happy holiday. Thank you.